Alright, so vibe coding's been a thing for a minute now, and if you're anything like me, you probably have a GitHub account somewhere stashed with these unicorn ideas, which are obviously destined for the moon. And if you're really like me, no one on earth has seen any of these applications that you've been making, mainly because of one big reason, which is that you are terrible at reaching out. You're terrible at speaking to the actual people who you're making this application for. So today, we're going to try to fix that. I'm going to show you a process that I've recently figured out to get your first customers using AI. There are two main ways to do this. The first one is really easy and you can do it without any technical knowledge. You can also use it if you're on any of the free tiers of ChatGPT. The second method is a bit more advanced and it's what I'm going to be building out. You should be able to use any of these steps no matter what part of your development journey you're on. Alright, so take a look at this application. It's one of the many that I've been making in the background. What it does really doesn't matter for this video. The main thing is that I had an idea, I went out and built it, and now I'm trying to validate it. You've probably been stuck at this point as well. I've been here many times. In this particular situation, I've made a quick application in a domain that I have no experience in and no immediate contacts who I could speak to for validation. So over the last 2 weeks, I've been thinking of ways to reach out to the people I need to speak to get some feedback and potentially a placement where I can do a beta for this application. Like I said, what this application does really shouldn't matter in this video, but the main thing is that it's supposed to take fast food restaurant kiosks like this and replace them with a solution that is all mobile based for smaller restaurant chains, coffee shops, food trucks, independently owned businesses who don't have the capital to invest in these huge machines. So it's a simple web-based solution that replaces these type of things. Okay, so in the next section, I'm going to be showing you guys how I use deep research features from ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude to go find customers, get all their information, and return it to me. Depending on where you are, you might actually have some trouble using this feature if it hasn't been deployed in your area. This happens quite a lot with any new AI features that come out, no matter what platform you're using, and it always sucks when you can't access the latest tools as soon as they come out. The sponsor for today's video, NordVPN, will be able to help you if you do come across anything like that in the future. They have an exclusive deal at the moment, which give you 4 extra free months when you sign up using the link in the description. Take a quick look if you're interested. It really helps out the channel if you click and sign up. Now back to the video. So right now we're at the point where you can literally code at the speed of thought, faster than you can speak or type in some instances. And because of that, it's really easy to just skip to the building phase, which is the fun part for me. I'm a builder, I'm a full stack developer, so I love just coding and making things from scratch. And it's very easy to just always fall into a cycle where you're always just chasing the next idea. In some cases that's completely fine, but in others, to justify how much time and energy you're putting into these ideas, you kind of need to go out and validate them. So for this particular idea, since I don't know anyone in my immediate circle who could help, I've been using a process which heavily relies on AI tools to do the research and outreach, but I want to automate that in this video, and you might find this interesting if you have come across the same issues that I've been having. To put it simply, I've been using either ChatGPT, Claude, or Google Gemini to deep research into a particular profile that I need of person or business, and just simply asking it to create a CSV file or a table with 100 businesses that fit the profile that I need. So it's basically just web scraping, finding 100 businesses that fit the profile that I need, getting their phone numbers, email addresses, and a little synopsis about what the business is, compiling all of that into a CSV file, and then you can probably guess where this is going. I had a go at trying to call a few of them. So I think I called 5 out of 100 before I got tired, and then I emailed 100 out of one of the lists that it brought back. And in this video, we're going to try to make a little pipeline that automates the emailing part, because even though I found success in both of them, calling and emailing, I don't think many people will appreciate having a robot calling them on their phone, but a cold email out of the blue is a lot less disruptive to the business who I'm calling or trying to get into contact with. So again, I did it on a really small scale. The idea here is to create a pipeline that is completely automatic, that gets as many details as possible and then sort of just contacts them. There are a lot of services that you can use, but we're going to try to build one out from scratch. Okay, so it's Friday night and it's after work. I've had a little bit of a head start on this project, so take a look at this. With the help of Claude Code, I've basically managed to create something that has the basic functions I need for this. Like I mentioned before, you can probably use other tools to get the same result, like N8N or Zapier. I've decided to mainly use AWS Lambda functions, mainly because of the price. Amazon only really charges you for every invocation, so you don't have to pay for hosting these, unlike N8N and other things. And also I'm trying to learn AWS CDK, so this is my little Hello World project to understand how it works. If you've never used CDK, it basically allows you to write out all of the infrastructure you need for the backend or your application using code and replicate it, destroy it, make minor changes, and keep track of everything in a really simple format where multiple people can work on it at once. So instead of having to go through the AWS console to define everything that you need for your project, you will just write it out in code and deploy it using the command line. So it's pretty cool. If you've used Terraform, it's literally Terraform, but specifically for AWS services. So anyway, that's a pretty cool tool that I'm trying to learn within this project. But the main thing is using the help of Claude to basically speed things up. Since I can only do this outside of work hours and time is limited, I've managed to make 4 Lambda functions that handle each part of the process that I was doing manually. So if we take a look at this one, which is called Deep Research, which is probably the most important one. Yeah, so the Deep Research function does exactly what you think it does. It goes out onto the internet and finds the customer profile that you specified. So currently in this UI that I made, I can give it a simple prompt like go find 100 sustainable fashion brands in California. Goes out onto the internet, finds their email addresses, phone numbers, descriptions, and returns a CSV that I store in a database, which is pretty cool. Maybe in the future I can add a little auto prompting function that generates prompts for deep research constantly and runs them, but who knows. The takeaway here, it's not really just Google searching, is visiting a bunch of websites and returning the specified information that you want. This video is not really a tutorial on how to build this. It's more of a showcase of this little pipeline that I found very useful when it comes to reaching out to people. But if you want, you can probably find this code in the description below, depending on when you're watching this. If it's not, comment below and give me a nudge. So that's the first Lambda function. That stops me having to go onto the ChatGPT UI interface or the Claude website to do deep research tasks. In this current state, I've only moved where I type the prompt. So instead of using their UI, I'm kind of using my own custom UI. Again, a future thing to add is to automatically create prompts that will then trigger these deep research jobs. So after it goes out onto the internet and finds 110, whatever you want, as many customers as you want, it returns them in a format that is stored in a database. So that is step 2. So the manual step this is replacing is you having to copy and paste all of the information that the chatbots normally retrieve. You might put them into an Excel sheet, but this little function I have here just basically stores everything in a DynamoDB database on AWS. Again, if you're using a no-code tool, you can probably do this, but as I said before, I'm trying to learn CDK, so this is my little Hello World project. Now, the third step after saving the information into the database is one which is a time saver if you're a single person who is trying to build a small application, which is just writing customized emails to the people you want outreach to. This one uses another OpenAI API to take the information it's gathered about one profile and then customize it in a way that I want it. In this particular situation, I'm just sending introduction emails and hoping 1 or 2 people might respond. And the bulk of the email is a template, but certain parts of it, I've asked GPT to include personalized information about the business and how the service I'm trying to offer might help them. So it's a cool little situation there to customize your email. I guess you can customize the entire email, but I found that, oh no, not again. So as I was saying, yes, you can customize the entire email, but I found with GPT, some of the stuff it produces is just not cool. And especially if you're using it as the first introduction into yourself and what you're doing, if you don't have time to double check everything it produces and then approve it, and you care about quality control, I think the best option in some cases, or in my case, was to basically give it a template of things not to change and tell it where to inject the personalized part of the email. So I'll try to show a breakdown on the screen as this video is going. Okay, so after the email is generated, the last step, which I automated, was sending the email. Now, doing this was a bit tricky. If you're doing this manually, you might find that obviously you can go into something like Outlook or Gmail and basically dump all of the email addresses into the recipients field. But what I found is that if you do that too many times, your email address will eventually be flagged as a spammy address. So to avoid that, I found that generating the emails so that the content is a bit different in each one helps, and also sending them one by one helps quite a lot. And to do that manually takes quite a bit of time. So this bulk send function that I have in this little project basically sends them one by one. First iteration I was using Outlook, but I came into some issues where certain email providers would not accept Outlook. So I ended up using Resend, which is quite cool. And it also tells you how many of your emails landed and how many of them got rejected. So that's basically the high level view of this little pipeline that I ended up creating to automate everything that I was doing manually. If you're going to do this, let me know. I feel like this is really useful to have, especially if you are someone who has a bunch of projects that they want to do outreach for to see if they can get any customer feedback. Yes, you can probably find a service that charges for something like this. But the cool thing about AI these days is that no matter what it is on the internet, if they charge you a price to do it, you can probably ask Claude to replicate that service. So this simple auto outreach project, probably, yeah, you can find it somewhere out there, but for a price. Or you can just do the manual steps yourself, but eventually you will get tired and you might want to automate it. And if you get to that point, have a go at trying to build your own little pipeline like this, which handles everything that you're doing manually. If you want something to start from, have a look again in the description to see how far I am with this project. It's going to be one that I keep updating as I go along. The first iteration, I'm okay with it. It kind of does what I need it to do, but obviously there's room for improvement, a lot more features that you can add. Personally, from using this thing, I've had 2 responses to the application that I'm trying to get help on, which is quite cool, considering I haven't really done much in terms of outreach. I've kind of procrastinated and made this whole application, which wasn't necessary, but I did it anyway. But it's a tool I can reuse for free, almost, as it costs next to nothing to run on AWS. Is it a bit overkill? Yes, it is. But I had a bit of fun making it, and I feel like I've saved a bit of money from making my own little thing. All right, so that is the quick overview of this little automatic outreach tool that I made for myself. If you're someone like me who's terrible at reaching out and you're not really going to put yourself out there to speak to people, you'd rather just send cold emails and hope one of them lands, this might be a workflow that you can try. And if you want to get technical, you can have a go at building a small automation tool that does it for you while you sleep. Let me know what you think of this little tool. Any improvements that you can suggest, let me know. Work in progress, but it's been helpful so far, and hopefully it will keep being helpful in the future. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Cheers.